Recording in progress.
Hi, everybody. Hi.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Happy Wednesday. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
I bet your weather is where you are is nicer than where I am.
It's
Really?
kind of cold.
Pardon me?
It's cold. It's like 53 degrees.
Okay. Well, my current temperature, Peaches, is 26 degrees and in the middle of a snowstorm. I think we have about 10 inches so far.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's no fun.
I'm so not a winter person.
I prefer winter. I don't know. I don't like the hot weather of Florida. You want to trade?
I'll
I don't
trade you.
mind.
I'll trade you.
Sure,
No
I'll
questions
absolutely
asked.
trade. I'll definitely trade.
Okay, I'll trade you. I don't even have to give you points or anything. Nope, I'll trade you straight up. I am not a winter person anymore. I'm too old. Too old to deal with all the cold weather and the snow. I'd rather be someplace that's really warm. I'm just letting everybody in. We're going to have a big group today. About half of my Monday class that didn't have class because of MLK holiday is coming today. So we'll have a pretty big class.
Professor Marvel,
Yes.
I sent you a direct message. I just wanted to let you know what was going on real quick before class. If you could just read that so you know.
Absolutely. Yep. Perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you.
Perfectly fine. And don't forget to put your name and your campus in the chat. I appreciate all of you coming in early. Well, this is my fun Essington group. Is that right? I think of Peaches, Danny, and Chris from last week. You're always laughing and giggling and smiling. So I know you three are from the same campus. Everybody trying to get in before the buzzer. So let me focus on that. That 3 o'clock buzzer. Danny, make sure you have if you know how to rename it, make sure you have your last name in there. On your Zoom. I'm so happy that everybody came back for week 2. Oh my gosh, I have all these chats. Oh, that's all of your names. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Cedrica, I don't know what's going on with your Zoom. It's all these flashing green signs.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. It has
No
been
worries.
happening since week.
No worries.
I'm here though. I'm
I
here.
know. Okay. I hear you. Make
I
sure
think
you
it-
all. Oh, go
I
ahead.
think it's Zoom. I think it's Zoom, Professor, because it goes to everybody's.
What do you mean, Michael?
Like that. When I did it yesterday.
You're muted. Say that again.
It was doing it to everybody's, even mine.
Okay, so I have another Michael, if you're going to be my tech person, why is it that when and this didn't happen before this term, why is it that when I go to share my screen, it gives me the message that Zoom skipped out or temporarily shut down or whatever?
It's got to be Zoom. It's got to be their application.
Their application. So I
Yeah.
need to contact Zoom.
Yes, and I think it's their problem because it did it yesterday on both of our classes. For leadership and mental health, it was doing it to everybody's.
What did it do?
What it's doing now on the green screen.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a separate issue. I think what I'm asking you, green screen is one issue, but why can I not share my screen without sending me an error message? Do you want to report it to Zoom? Do you not? Why would that be happening?
I don't know. That's got to be something with Zoom.
Zoom, or is it in my internal settings? I mean,
I think it's got to be Zoom.
all right, so I need to contact Zoom to find out what the issue is. Okay, all right. I'm too old to be figuring out technical difficulties. That's where I rely on all of you guys. Okay. So hi, everybody. Let's see. Do I need to, let's see. Everybody looks good. I feel like we're missing people. Maybe not. We'll double check. How is everybody for Wednesday? We're halfway through the week and we're in week 2. Right? Let's see. Does anybody have any questions from last week's orientation PowerPoint? Does anybody have any questions about attendance policy? Couple of people I need to get on camera. Dwayne, Zaria. I can only see your forehead.
Yes, Sarah. You can call me Yessie. It's easier.
What is
for
it?
you. Yessie.
I knew that. Yessie. I can only see your forehead. Makeda, I can only see your forehead. There you are. Malignus. There you are. You were all blurred, but now I can see you. So if anybody has their screen on blurred, take that off blur if you don't mind. Okay, so nobody has any questions from last week. Everybody got it.
I
Okay.
came in late last week, Professor Marvel, but I got to talk to you a
Oh,
little
hey,
later.
Omar. Yeah.
Hi,
Hey,
how you?
hey, Omar. That's my son-in-law's name.
Oh, is it?
Omar. Yeah.
All right.
Unfortunately,
Well,
my
just-
daughter, Omar is a Brit. So my daughter married a Brit, Omar, and they live out in London. So, Omar. Stay on after
Easy.
Omar. What?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah, stay on after. And anybody who has any questions for me, stay on after. again, I'll repeat, if anybody that hasn't already contacted me is a repeat, re-entry, or has accommodations,
Excuse
and you
me.
haven't let me know yet, please let me know. Okay, I got my official rosters last night. I haven't had a chance to sort them out yet, but I should have everybody in there.
We're having a problem with accessing the textbook.
I sent you an announcement on that this morning. Did you see that?
Yeah, yes, but we tried that and it's still not
Mhm.
working for none of us. So what should we do? Should we talk to our dean when we get to school tomorrow? Like,
Yeah.
how should we go about that?
Kendra, what campus are you from?
Essington?
Essington. Is that a problem with all of you Essington students? Nobody can access the book?
Yes, it's a problem with all Essington. None of us can access the textbook. It's not even giving us the option of doing like taking any of the steps that you put in the announcement.
Okay, and is it one particular book or is it all three?
No, the other books we have, the maternity book we have online and we have physical copies. The peds book we have, well, that goes along with the maternity book.
And the
So it's just the
master's book.
community.
Wait, say that again about the Pete's book.
The peds book coincides with our maternity book, so it's just the community book.
So it's just the fundamentals? Yes?
Yes,
Just your fundamentals book. You're okay with your med surg book and you're okay with your intro to maternity and peds.
yes.
Oh, so
fundament-
what you're saying is essentially community is a combination of maternity and peds, fundamentals and med surg, and that's it?
You have 3 books. It's listed in your syllabus. You have 3 books that
Yeah.
coincide with this class.
I think we thought it was a separate community book. Got it. Thank
Nope.
you.
You should already have,
under our fundamental books.
you should already have all these 3 books populated in your vital source. These are
Yeah,
these are
we
books-
haven't. We just thought that it was like a separate book for the class, so we were trying to do something else.
Nope. If you look in the syllabus, the 3 books that are assigned to this class, we used to have the foundations book for the RN and the PN. We don't have the foundations book for the PN anymore. Okay, the foundations book is just for the RN students. This is, I think, the 2nd term, if not 3rd term, that we're pulling from books that you're already using. So with that being said, you should have access to all 3 books. Does that change up things for Essington?
Yeah, that changes up a lot. I think, like, I guess we all just thought that it was like a community book as a whole.
Mm-mm.
And I think that's where the confusion was coming in at.
Nope. We
We
don't
have
use
all
the
3 books though.
Pardon me? Pardon me. What? So does that solve the problem for Essington? You have your book.
We have everything.
Yeah.
We're
Okay,
good.
great.
Thank
Super.
you.
You're welcome. Beyond that, if anybody's having trouble accessing, like some of my reentry students who haven't been at Fortis in a couple of years have older versions. And so I have to send them the conversion guides of like edition 5 to edition 6. So let me know if that's an issue. Okay. So today, I would like to review the content, and then we're going to do our quiz, and then we're going to do some weekly questions, and then we're going to jump to our HESI prep. So when you guys have a minute, in the next half hour, pull up your HESI prep assignment. Everybody knows what I'm talking about with HESI prep, right? HESI prep is that document that's due, I believe, in week 9, I think. That is a summary document of all the topics that were covered on HESI the past 2 or 3 terms. And so I want to review the sections on that we can complete after week 1 and 2. Okay, so that this is a work in progress for you for week 10. So once you get to week 10, you can just submit it. Okay, if you don't fill out this form, this prep, and it really is a HESI prep. This is preparing you all term for your HESI. Okay, so if you don't fill that out every week or every 2 weeks, it's going to turn out to be a really big assignment for you guys in week 10. So keep up. And I try and spend just a little bit of class time every week completing the sections that we've covered. So by the end of week 10, it should all be filled out. Okay, makes sense? And then I'll review the notes as well. what else was I going to tell you guys? I sent out my content recording this morning. And so you can use that along with your readings. I only sent you out the PowerPoints of the chapters that you were responsible in full. So for example, for this week, you were responsible for 2 chapters in fundamentals, chapter 11 and chapter 12. And so that's why I sent you the full PowerPoint. I didn't send you the full PowerPoint for all the common childhood ailments, because that would be 8 different chapters. And you're not responsible for all those 8 chapters. You're only responsible for the few pages for each ailment, right? So please, when you're studying, do not read all those 8 chapters start to finish that all those common childhood ailments are in. You're only responsible for those few pages. That's why I didn't want to confuse you and send you 8 additional PowerPoints. Okay. And then you're responsible for the second of 2 pages in your med-surg book. I think it was 1024. Last week we covered 1023, which is community care. Okay. So very specific and targeted in what your readings are. But I did send you the PowerPoints for 11 and 12. And I covered those in the content review this morning. Okay. Really, really proud of everybody. I had very little issues with everybody turning in their discussion posts, their initial last Wednesday, and then their peers by Sunday. Very little issue. The few students I had to reach out to, unfortunately, that didn't post their initials on Wednesday, they didn't get any credit for that particular part of the rubric, but I asked them to still submit their peer responses. Okay. And they did. So already have quite a bit of people that have turned in their initial response for this week. Those are due tonight. Right. Let's see, what else do we have due in week 3? Do we have an NCLEX this week?
No.
Okay.
It's
next
just the
week.
quiz.
Just the quiz. Okay. Just the quiz and the discussion question. Okay. And we'll do the quiz together. Okay. But I want to review some content first, and then we're going to go back and do a quick review of last week and this week. The other thing I sent you out, was it last night or the night before? I sent you out the study guide. Everybody get that?
Maybe, I seen it last night.
Okay. So you now have the study guide that covers weeks 1 through 3. Okay, so probably only some of that information on the study guide looks familiar to you now, because that's week 1 material. Okay, after today, another big chunk of the study guide should be familiar to you. Okay, with week 2 content. And then next week, we have 1 more week of week 3 content. Okay, and then once we complete next week, all the concepts introduced to you on the study guide should be familiar to you. But I told you last week, I like to provide that early on so you can use it as one tool to prepare for the exam. The other tools you have are your readings, are your notes, your weekly notes that I send along, and your content lectures. Okay. And by exam time, you should be able to articulate the study guide, not memorize it, okay, but articulate the concepts on there. If you can do that, then you're going to do perfectly fine on the exam. Okay. Question.
Ms. Mark, I have a quick question.
Yeah, of course.
For the HESI, is it exactly that you're looking for?
Well, read the
on there.
Yep. So if you read the directions at the top, it asks you to apply the nursing process. So for example, if you're taking care of a patient with anthrax, what might that patient present with, and what kind of nursing interventions might you do to take care of that patient? Okay, it asks you to look at each topic through the lens of the nursing process. Does that help?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So this week, school nurse. What's a school nurse? What does a school nurse do? What kind of nurse is a school nurse?
A lot more than I thought they did.
Isn't that the truth?
Actually, considering that, I didn't know that they were able to find resources for parents that would help with care for
yeah.
kids. Thought it was only social workers.
That's right. Just a couple of quick interruptions. Renaya, if you could, I can't see your face. Zadie? Zeddy? Say it again.
Yessie, she can't see you.
Okay, I
Yatsira.
can't see you. Yetzi, I can't see you. So, I just finished 20 years in school nursing. I retired last year. And I can tell you that kids aren't coming to the clinic anymore. Well, kids are coming to the clinic for more than Band-Aids, ice packs, and hugs. Okay. In my last couple of years before I retired, I was a full-time COVID nurse. Once the pandemic broke out, full-time COVID nurse. In addition to that, some of the things that I performed as a school nurse were direct care. Okay, so school nurses, at least in my environment, I worked in a school district with 90,000 students, 180 schools, all the way from preschool up to high school. Okay, direct care wise, we weren't site-based. We had aides in our clinics and we delegated quite a bit to them, but some of the direct care, just so you know the scope, trachs, care for trachs, replace trachs if they need to be replaced, trach suctioning, G-tube feedings, replacing a G-tube if it needed to be replaced, catheterizations, both male and female, diabetic care, giving insulin, managing pumps, seizure maintenance, giving emergency seizure medications if needed, EpiPens, inhalers. Okay, that's just on the top of my head what I can remember. So school nursing a school nurse is an incredibly important part of the healthcare team within the school. Obviously, the school nurses, their job is to maintain the health and the safety of students. What else did you learn about school nursing that was new to you? What other areas are school nurses involved with?
They can educate.
What are we educating on?
Proper nutrition. Also safety, like helmets and seatbelts.
Mm-hmm.
They can also help like students and their family get access to like health insurance, like give them resources pertaining to.
Mm-hmm.
They also do, I remember being in school and my school nurse actually helped my cousin with like social services or something. I'm not really quite sure, but I know it dealt with like the social service part piece. She did a lot in that.
Yep. So we're responsible for not only the physical well-being of students, the emotional well-being, mental health, psychosocial. Okay, we are responsible for working with the staff and educating the staff on how to care for students in their classroom, how to recognize signs of allergic reaction, anaphylaxis, how to recognize when it's time to send the student with asthma down to the clinic to use their inhaler, right? Working with the PE teacher to talk about students that maybe need to be pre-treated with their asthma, with their inhaler before they go to gym or field day or whatever. Okay. Lots of roles with the school nurse. We participate on the special education team. We participate in the IEPs, the individualized education plans for special needs students. The health piece of the special education assessment is critical. It helps determine services. We help coordinate the different services for special ed students, PT, OT, speech. Okay. Let's talk about primary, secondary, and tertiary interventions when it comes to the school nurse. What's primary?
Main, the first
Pardon me?
ailment, or the main topic, or the main ailment, or the first starter.
Prevention.
Prevention.
So if you're doing a primary intervention, what are you doing? P
You're trying
stands
to
for
prevent it before anything
Oh,
happens.
gotcha.
correct. So give me a couple of examples of what a school nurse would use as a primary intervention.
Playground safety, like making sure, like, you know how kids are outside at the playground and like, or they're at recess and they're playing around. Oh, Bill, make sure you're not doing this. Make sure when you are like doing physical play, it's not inappropriate. It's not too rough.
So you're trying to prevent something before it happens. What else? Excellent.
Immunizations.
Medication is taken on time and at the time that it's supposed to be taken.
Medication taken on time, we're going to save that for tertiary because obviously they're taking the medication for a reason. They have something.
Hand
Could be
washing.
overlooking the
Hand wash.
vaccines to make sure everybody's
Vaccines.
up to date.
Yep. What do you do with a parent? What do you do with a parent who chooses not to get their child vaccinated?
We gotta respect them. You just educate them on what the vaccine does to body. Can't really
That's
do anything about it.
Perfect answer. Who said that? Who said that?
Cedrica.
Perfect answer. Can't be judgmental. Can't, right? You have to accept their decision. And the only thing you can do at that point is educate them on vaccines being essentially the most effective way to prevent some of these childhood diseases. What else is a primary intervention of a school nurse? What things are we trying to prevent?
Hand washing, like flu and like
Injuries.
sickness, germs. Yeah.
Yep. Injuries, I heard.
Abuse.
How are we trying to prevent that?
Like, I mean, like, I would say as far as like, you know, like talking to them, like to, you know how you do, like how in school they would have like them little people, like people come to your class or something and like talk to you, like, oh, if this is going on or this is going on, you want to make sure you're talking about it.
Exactly. So I'll take that one step further. Primary prevention interventions for a school nurse could be teaching about obesity prevention, teaching about drugs, not to get into drugs. What?
I said school age children, as you said, drugs and sexual addiction, things of that nature.
Absolutely. Maybe suicide prevention. You know, talking to them about mental health issues. If they have mental health issues, where they reach out. You're trying to prevent something before it happens. What about a secondary? What is secondary? S stands for what?
That'd be like
screening.
Screening. So what? I always think of secondary as early identification, early intervention. So what would be some secondary interventions we could be doing in the schools?
So with secondary, right? So, I mean, primary is before it occurs and secondary will basically be right when it happens.
Yeah, yes. And you're identifying who's at risk. So maybe you're identifying what kids might be at risk for obesity, identifying what kids might be at risk for bullying, identifying what kinds of, you're screening to find the at-risk population. So what kinds of things would you screen for in schools? Well, you might be screening for lice, right? You might be screening for conjunctival. Pardon me?
Pregnancy.
Yep, absolutely. And remember, if you identify groups at risk for certain things, that's where the early intervention happens. Okay, so if you can identify, say,
Anorexia.
Yeah, screening for anorexia, exactly. So early intervention, STDs, yep. Okay, and then where does tertiary come in? What has to happen for tertiary interventions to be effective? What do you have to acknowledge first?
Management of a disease. You have the disease or something.
Yep, Emily. Yep, Emily, you're right. You have to have something going on. Whether you have asthma and you're using an inhaler in the schools, whether you have an allergy and you have an EpiPen in the school, whether you have insulin vial or you're on a pump, you have diabetes, you're obese, you have an STD, you're a pregnant teen. Okay. Tertiary is about treatment. Tertiary, that's why the T goes for T. It's more about management. So somebody mentioned a little while ago, sending the kids to the clinic to get their medication. Okay, what do they have their medication for? Let's say ADHD. They're coming to the clinic to take their medication for ADHD. So they have a diagnosis. So the tertiary intervention is providing them their medication. Does that make sense? You got to understand the difference between primary, secondary, and tertiary. There's several questions on each exam about primary, secondary, and tertiary. Okay. And you have to be able to apply what is a primary intervention, primary, secondary, tertiary, say for a school nurse versus a home health nurse. It looks different. The concept is the same, right? For a home health nurse, maybe one of your primary interventions are when you go into the home and doing your one of your assessments, you assess the risk for fall. Okay. Does that make sense? So you have to be able to take those 3 interventions and apply them to whatever topic whatever concept we're covering. What kinds of roles, we talked about this a little bit, does a school nurse play? Direct caregiver, I already gave you several examples. Educator, we do a lot of education in school nursing, whether we're educating the kids, the staff, the administration, the families, lots and lots of education.
So
okay?
like community, like something like a community speaker.
Yes, I arrange for people from the community to come in and speak with staff at a staff meeting. If there's an important topic that I want, I'll have an allergist come in and talk about allergies. I'll have a doctor who deals with childhood asthma, maybe come in and do a 10-minute presentation on asthma. Yep. We're a consultant. As with nurses, we're always the go-to person, right? So we're always the go-to. It's no different in the schools. Okay, your nursing role in the schools is you are seen as the go-to person. You are supposed to have all the answers. Okay, so we are responsible for providing health information to teachers that may have kids in their classrooms that have certain health issues. Okay, to the before school program, to the after school program. Okay, we communicate. I mean, I'm a consultant or a conduit between parents and physicians. If I had a kid missing day after day after day due to asthma, I'm going to contact that parent. I'm going to try and see what their insurance is, try and hook them up with a physician that they can go and see. So we're working as a liaison as well. And then we're also working as a case manager. What are case managers? They're the nurses, the people that coordinate complex care, right? So you've got significantly impacted kids in your school. You as a nurse are essentially working with as a case manager. Make sure they're getting the services in school, making sure they're getting to their follow-up appointments, making sure the parent is capable of taking care of them. Right. So we work as a case manager as well. And then we've already talked about this a little bit, but we do lots and lots of community outreach, hooking up parents with doctors, hooking up parents with different resources in the community. And then as school nurses, at least in my district, we participated in a lot of community activities, whether it be health fairs, vaccination clinics, information nights, a back to school night, do information night on providing health information, all that stuff. So really big scope for school nurses, really big scope. Anybody have any interest in working in the schools? It's really, mean, I always like being around kids, but it really is it's a big job. Big job. And school nurses are guided by, number one, the CDC, but the National Association of School Nurses. So I actually still belong to that and still get quite a bit of great information from there. Okay, so just to review, primary prevention we talked about in the schools, as Michael said, seatbelt safety. This is, I'm looking at your notes, helmet safety, playground safety, sports injuries. Right, we already talked about provide education, early education of substance abuse. Talked about vaccinations. What do you do? I'm talking as your school nurse role. What do you do about the student that wants to talk about contraception, or the student that wants to talk about where do I go get an abortion? What do we do about that? Is that part of our scope?
I feel like we can talk to them about it. Like we can provide the resources for it. Like, you know, for like, okay, well, because I don't know, would you have to bring the parent in on it if they're a certain age?
If they're underage, I would think you would have to report it, right?
Those are the posing these questions to you.
I thought that at 16, like at the age of 16, the confidentiality is there that you do not have to tell the parent. That's why they have Planned Parenthood also for underage children,
right,
to go and get contraceptives.
Because there are doctors out here who have where you can go to at a certain age by yourself.
You would probably have to be an emancipated minor, though.
No, because when I went to
well, it depends on
my
state.
doctor at 13.
It depends on your state regulations and your local regulations. But I bring that up just as a topic of what do you do at a middle school when this comes up? What do you do in a high school when this comes up? So my point in bringing this up is the scope around the school nurse role.
And the notes to say that parental consent is not required. Like if in response to a direct question or request. So no, we don't have to. We can assist them without needing a parent.
Okay, thanks for that feedback. The other thing you have to keep in mind as a school nurse is keeping the child's developmental stage in mind. Part of your reading this week of your 2 chapters in fundamentals, the first chapter was the different groups as a child, all the way from prenatal to neonatal to toddler to young child to young adolescent. Okay, you always have to keep their developmental stage in mind. Okay, obviously the younger the child, the shorter the education. I mean, in my nursing assignments, we weren't site-based. I had kids all the way from preschool, age 3, all the way up to 18, 19 in high school. So as I walked into each building, it was a whole different train of thought. Who's my audience? What issues do they have? What risks do they have? And what would be the best way to do an assessment of this particular group based on whichever building I was in? So I had to have a really extensive knowledge on growth and development. And one of the things I talked about in the recording is we look at all these different age groups from physical, we look at them from cognitive, and we look at them from behavioral. Those are the 3 main umbrellas that we look at all these different age groups from. And then each group has their own little sections in the book. So for example, the school age child, they add injuries into that section because injuries are very common with school age children. And then in the adolescent section, they'll add a section about seatbelt safety. These are the kids that are starting to drive. Right. So just peruse through those 2 chapters. Very, very informative. Okay. Okay, let's shift gears for a minute. What's a family? What's the definition of a family? Is there a definition of a family?
It's whatever you
Say that again, Michael.
It's whatever you make it as.
Does
I
everybody
feel like
agree?
it's a unit of relatives.
relatives. Okay. Okay.
Family is not necessarily relatives. Like Michael said, family is a group of people who share feelings, love one another, support one another at
Yeah, like who
any
provide
given
like the
time.
physical and emotional support for you.
That's
Who
exactly
take care
right.
of you.
Family is whatever they say it is, right? Who is providing you the physical, emotional, and financial support? Okay, so the days of tight-knit, biological, relative families, that's in the past. Okay, there's so many diverse makeups of families now. So when you're doing your family assessment in the community, the family is whatever they say it is. And you have to support that. Okay. So did you guys get as far into your preparation to know the difference between what are family functions and what's a family structure? You need to know the difference between family function, family structure. Anybody want to take a stab at it?
Like a nuclear family, I believe. That was the one with the mom, dad, and child.
You got your blended family.
Okay, those are different types of families. Okay, so go ahead.
The functions for family, I guess like it says it's the financial part, the health part, reproductive part, socialization part, and affective part.
Mm-hmm. So what does that mean, Keandra? That
as far as like what do you mean?
So
how does it all tie in together?
So what Keandra just mentioned was the 5 essential functions of every family. This is in your reading. Okay, so when you're doing your family assessments out in the community, there's 5 different core functions that make up every family. Keandra just mentioned them: financial, health, reproductive, socialization, and affective. You can look at your notes for the definitions of each. Each of these 5 are made up in all families. Those are the core functions. It may look really different. It will look very different in every family. Right?
So for the reproductive part, are you asking the like how many people?
How many kids they have? What? Yes. What is the reproductive makeup of are they a family with no children? Are they a family with adopted children, foster children, biological children? Right? Financial, are they financially stable as a family, or are they financially unstable? Do they live in poverty? With health, do the kids and adults go for routine screenings? Kids immunized? Right? So all these things make up the core functions of a family. How they're carried out or what they look like is all different. And so that's part of your family assessment, but know that these are the core functions of a family. Okay, structure. Family structure simply refers to what your role is in the family. Are you the mom? Are you the dad? Are you the kid? Are you the dog? Are you the grandparent? Are you the cousin? That's structure. Okay, so what is your role in the family? Okay. So part of your reading also included identifying, how do you identify a highly functioning family versus I hate to use this word, but a dysfunctional family? Okay, you go back to these 5 essential core functions. Okay, are these strong? Are all these strong within the family? That typically will indicate this is a highly functioning family. However, what if somebody's out of a job? What if they're struggling financially? What if they're living in poverty? What if they have a kid that was just diagnosed, or a parent that was just diagnosed with cancer or a chronic illness? Okay, what if the parents get divorced? I'm looking at the affective, creating a sense of identity and belonging. What if the parents get divorced? So any one of these, any or all of these that become challenging jeopardizes how the family functions, right? And as we're doing our assessment of the family, because think of ADPI, these are all the things we're doing during the assessment phase. So let's say you go into a home to do a home visit. What kinds of things? Let's say you're going in to do a home visit you're just checking in with a family to make sure that the kid that started on medication for whatever, ADHD, is not having any side effects. So you go into the home and do that assessment. What else? Home visits are the best way to do a comprehensive assessment. What other things are you going to look for in that family assessment?
They have food, the cleanliness, the way they live, the dynamic.
They
have enough
interact with each
food.
other.
Looking at the way they talk to each other.
When they talk to each other, the way they treat each other. How does the mom talk to the kid? How does the kid talk to the mom? Is everybody yelling and screaming? Is everybody calm? Are they cohesive? What does their environment look like? Is it safe? Is their refrigerator working? Is their heat working? They don't have any, I don't know, gas or electric stoves? I don't know. Do they have furniture all over the place that might be a risk if they have an elderly person living in the house? Is there furniture all over the place that somebody might trip?
Do they smoke in the house?
Do they smoke in the house? This is all part of what you would consider in your family assessment. Okay. And it helps you determine, do you think this is a functioning family or a dysfunctioning family? If it's a dysfunctional family, then you have to do your nursing process, your ADPI goes a whole different direction, right? Identifying the issues, identifying the problems. What does this family need? What kind of resources does this family need? What would a family in crisis look like? Or what's the definition of not a formal definition, but if a family's in crisis, what does that usually indicate?
I'm thinking financial. They lost their jobs.
Okay, so let's assume they lost their jobs and they're in crisis.
They're about to lose their house.
About to lose their house. Families in crisis, what that typically means is they have had a life event thrust at them and they are absolutely incapable of handling it. Right? For whatever reason, they don't have the resources, they don't have the support. Family in crisis is a individual or group that just is unable to cope with a life event. There's a lot of that out in the communities now, is there not? Okay, so you put yourself out in the community as a community nurse and you're doing well child visits or home health visits, and you're simply going in to check on, your workload, maybe visiting 5 families that just had a new baby and they're coming home and you're going to go do a well mom, well baby visit. When you walk into all 5 of those scenarios, you're probably going to do 5 different assessments, right? That's what community nursing is all about. You're shifting your mindset from a patient-centered hospital client out into the community where it may not be only the individual, but the whole family's involved now. Got to think big picture, right? One of the things that part of our family assessment from this week.
Emotional distress, a lot of neglect.
Absolutely. And you have to be prepared to deal with that, wherever your assessment leads. As the community nurse, they're looking at you for help. What's out there for me? What's out there for my kids who's dabbling in drugs? What's out there for my kids who are obese? What's out there for my daughter who's pregnant? and she's 15. I mean, that's what community nursing is. That's what public health nursing is. So one of the other things that you need to be aware of for this week was the when we're assessing family health risks. Okay. And that starts at the beginning of life all the way to the end of life. But the three ways we discuss family risks are either biological, environmental, or behavioral. Did you guys get to the point where you learned about or you read about genograms and ecomaps? We need to know that for exam 1. Okay, so again, the topic is family health risks. So biologically, we assess risk, like I just said, biological, environmental, behavioral. The way we assess biological risk is with something called a genogram. Okay, genogram means genetics, right? And they're typically for the kind of the unknown. Okay, so for example, if you have a long family history of heart disease, if you have a long family history of diabetes or alcoholism or breast cancer, you don't necessarily need a genogram because you're already at risk, right? It's more for the unknown. So for example, I use the example of a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I don't have any kind of family history of breast cancer. Nope, zip, none. So I went ahead and had to do a genogram to go back 3 generations. It's typically 3 generations to see what kind of family history I had, to see if we could determine where this might have come from. Was it one-off, or was I carrying that BRCA gene? Okay, so it was kind of unknown, right? That's what those are typically used for. Genetic testing, genetic history. Okay, that's a genogram. An ecomap is when you're doing an environmental risk assessment. And what that means is, how is the family connected with the community? All right, there's a nice visual in your book. It's a circle. I'll use me for example. I'm in the middle of a circle, Professor Marvel. Okay, all the lines out of my circle are my social networks. So how do I interact with the community? So one of my lines is the rec center, another line is family, another line is work, another line is book club, right? So how do I interact with the community? Church, whatever. I had lines everywhere. Okay, I interacted with the community quite well. Okay. That's what you want to see. You want to see that family units are engaged and interactive with their community. Okay, what happened? So to all of us, so you may have your circle and you may have all your little lines for how you and your family are connected to the community. What happened at the beginning of the pandemic? What happened to all those lines?
Separated.
What?
They got cut off.
Gone. And then what happened? There was no social connections in the community. What happened to the kid? I speak specifically with the kids because I was a school nurse at that time. What happened to the kids? Depression,
trauma,
suicide, mental health, mental illnesses, lack of socialization, loneliness. And we're now coming out of this pandemic, really starting to see the effects of that, are we not? Yes, no? Absolutely, we are. So that's what an ecomap is. You want your ecomap to have you in the center or your family in the center and have all these connections. We want families to be connected into their community. Okay. And then behavioral family risks. That's the third. That's lifestyle change. That's lifestyle choices. You're going to drink, you're going to smoke, you're going to be overweight, those are personal lifestyle choices. That is part of your assessment. And then if there are issues with anything from a behavioral, are the kids acting out in school? Are the parents, is one of them a domestic abuser? Is one of them, those are all behaviors. Okay, that's the third prong of your family risk assessment. Okay. Let's see. We talked about obesity. Talked about the increased risk of type 2 diabetes, and then common childhood ailments. I'm not going to go through this section of your notes. This is the Med-Surg part of this week. Okay, you have heard of all of these common childhood ailments, okay, in your previous classes. Okay, now what we're trying to help you understand is how do you care for these kids in the community? Okay, whether it be in the school setting, the daycare setting, the home setting. Okay, so here you got to pull your PEDS experience, your Med-Surg experience. Your discussion question this week is focused on 3 childhood ailments. Oh, I know what I want to tell you guys before I forget. Last week, your discussion question was on vulnerable population. Pick a vulnerable population. You guys did an excellent, excellent job. I would use that if that's the vulnerable population you selected, and that's the one you want to work on for your week 11 vulnerable populations assignment. Use that as a springboard. Does that make sense?
And that's done through a PowerPoint, right?
That's a PowerPoint, yeah. You can go to week 11 and look at the guidelines, but you all did such a wonderful job, but you can build off your discussion question from last week and keep expanding on that and make that your week 11 assignment. Just a suggestion. This week is your common childhood ailments. Don't forget when you do your discussion question for this week, each of the ones you pick, you got to do that educational plan, right? Your 6-point educational plan, do it for each one. It's meant to be done for each one. It says that in the guidelines, but I always have a number of students who skip over that, and that's where they lose points in the rubric. Okay, so that's my content review. Okay, so I'm going to go through, we're going to do the quiz, but nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to go through and let's do the quiz now, and then we're going to do the HESI prep. So how's everybody feeling so far as a review? Review of the content. I really like an interactive discussion. I really do. Because it tells me the more you guys are participating, the more it's telling me that you guys are preparing and kind of reading ahead, and that's very helpful. Okay, so I'm gonna test my Zoom here. I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna go to everybody pull up quiz number 1 in week 2. Let's see, I'm getting that. Okay. The other place that I didn't review just now, but I want you guys to review is there was a second. Can you guys see me or hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, can you guys, you can't see my screen because that's where I'm getting messed up. So we're just going to be, I'm going to be reading this to you. Okay, but you can all see it. It's right in front of you as well. What I meant to just say was, don't do your quizzes before you come to class. Okay, I can't redo them for you. Okay. So based on what we just talked about, let's everybody have quiz 1 up. You can't see my screen because my Zoom's getting messed up. So I can see all of you and you can probably see me, but we're just going to read it through together. Okay, so let's look at question 1. Don't answer it until we've figured out the right answer. Okay. Which is an example of community-based nursing. What did we say community-based nursing was? Are you looking at the population as a whole, or are you looking at individuals in the community that require care?
Population as a whole.
Nope, that's community-oriented nursing. Remember, oriented, I think of oriented, you're orienting yourself to the whole community, where when you're
That's right,
based,
based.
you're working within the community. Okay, so which one of these would be an example of community-based nursing?
Is it developing a teen pregnancy prevention program?
Nope. Why would that be community-oriented?
Would it be C?
It's C.
Nope.
No?
Nope. Think about it.
Is it
Community-based.
I
educating
was
a child
thinking
in
B,
school
the
teacher
education.
how to use an inhaler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that community-based?
But the
It is for
community is
individual.
the school?
Because you're working in the community. You're a school nurse in the community working with a student in school.
So
Yeah.
the way I thought of it is
Mhm.
based, you're in it. You are in the community doing things, whereas oriented, you're on the outside looking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like you're actively doing something?
Yes. If you're community oriented, think of yourself of getting oriented to the community. You're looking at the community as a whole. Okay. We're community based. You're in the community. You're a home health nurse. You're a school nurse. You're a hospice nurse. You're a occupational nurse. You're a faith-based nurse. You're working with your population specific population. So educating a child and school teacher on the use of an inhaler puts you right in the thick of things.
Right.
You're in the community. Where if you're developing a teen pregnancy prevention program, you're looking at that from a standpoint of the whole, how can this benefit the community? Evaluating the outcomes of a community vaccination program, you're looking at the whole community. Right? Providing diabetes education prior to hospital discharge, it's not singling out a certain person. That's a community program. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand why B is the right answer?
Yes.
You're going to get asked about this on exam 1. You're going to be given a scenario. Is this community oriented? Is this community based? Okay, so you really have to have a solid understanding. And it's in your week 1 notes from last week, it's a top section. It specifically identifies community oriented, community based. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that question?
No.
Okay. Part of your
I'm sorry, you stated that D?
B.
B.
Second one.
Okay. Ooh, thank you.
Okay. Do we all understand why it's B? Okay.
Yes.
If you don't, speak up because you got to have an understanding of the two differences. Question 2. Part of your week 1 assignment was to review Healthy People 2030. And you had a link to the website. What's their goal? What's their purpose in life?
A provides
To promote health and well-being.
For who?
For everybody.
everybody.
Right. It's a national program. Right? B is incorrect. It doesn't just talk about the most common chronic illnesses. It certainly has nothing to do with nursing curriculum. Right? And it doesn't have anything to do with focusing on community health to individual health. It's looking, their overall goal is to increase the health of everybody. And that looks different. Remember, that looks different in every chapter. So you do have to review your Healthy People 2030 goals in each chapter. Okay, it looks different for the school nurse. It looks different for your environmental health chapter. It looks, there's just, they have different objectives. Has anybody looked at their website?
Healthy People?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really comprehensive and really,
That's a lot of information.
It's a ton of information. But that is the roadmap. That is our national roadmap. It started out with Healthy People 2020, then it went to Healthy People 2010, then it went to Healthy People 2020, or did I already say that? 2000, 2010, 2020, and in the last year, we've recently converted to 2030. It's really it's a roadmap for the country. Okay, so if you haven't had a chance to peruse that website, please do. Okay. We haven't really, well, we did. This comes up in week 1, vulnerable populations. Okay, part of our vulnerable population, one of the vulnerable populations is considered who's insured and who's underinsured. If you're uninsured or underinsured, you're considered a vulnerable population. Why? What happens if you're, which is the correct answer?
Because you usually wait,
Advanced
wait,
disease.
Probably
and
C.
then you get advanced disease. You wait too long.
Exactly right.
No preventive care.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So A, by virtue of not being insured, is absolutely incorrect, right? You're more likely to attend wellness visits. No, you're probably more likely to not have any scheduled.
Right.
Right. And the B is just exactly the opposite. You're more likely to develop preventable diseases because you're not seeking out care. Right. And what everybody just said, you're more than likely to be in your advanced stages of something because you haven't had the insurance and you haven't sought out preventative care. And that's classic with people that are either uninsured or underinsured, is they don't seek out primary care. And by the time you get a hold of them or see them in your clinics or emergency rooms or hospital, it's already well advanced.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. They'll
Very
ignore
unfortunate.
the problem until it's too bad to fix.
Right. And that's why one of the facts in community public health nursing is, we talked about this last week, where are most of the resources given in the community? Chronic health problems. Right? Chronic health problems are huge in the community setting. Okay, and this is one reason, one of many reasons. Okay. Okay. This would be a question from last week. Which
But
client?
the answer was C, right?
Pardon me?
The answer was C.
Yes. Yes. C. Yep. Okay. Let's go to question 4.
Before I said everything but the 23-year-old with vaginal conitis, because that's like what, like a yeast infection or like bacterial infection or something like that.
Well, it could be considered an STD too.
All of them, isn't it?
It'll be all of them.
I had all of them.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think the 26-year-old is vulnerable
Why?
because
pregnant.
she's, she's of age. She's not,
Yeah, but did she take she take care of herself before she got pregnant? Was she eating right? Was she doing drugs? Is she up to date with all her shots and everything she needs? There's a lot.
Yolanda, you're reading too much into the question. We don't have all that information.
Only read what.
But isn't that what you're supposed to think?
What if instead of 26-year-old, it said teen pregnant?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Would that make them?
Teen pregnant is a high risk.
Okay. So a 26-year-old, all the answers are correct except the 26-year-old, because yes, they might have risks, but overall, they're not considered an at-risk population.
Right.
Okay. Where a teen pregnant young woman has lots of risks. Right? Don't forget about our veterans. For purposes of this class, veterans are considered vulnerable populations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, obviously substance abuser, HIV, and the 23-year-old with vaginal candiditis we're thinking more of STD. Okay. So remember, if you get asked about this on the exam, remember that with regards to pregnancy, the vulnerable population is the teen pregnant. Okay. Not saying a 26-year-old can't become vulnerable. Of course they can. But for purposes of this discussion, they're considered normal pregnancy. Okay. Number 5. Oh gosh, did I just lose that? No. Number 5. Okay. What we need to talk about here, before we even answer the question, is resiliency and motivation. I need you guys to be very familiar with those two terms. Because in community nursing, we're teaching about resiliency, right? Overcoming risks, overcoming problems. Okay? So resiliency is in our toolbox, right? How do we become resilient with working in the community? And how do we help others become resilient to lower their risks? The other part of that is motivation. You need to be thinking ahead of, if you're the community nurse, how can you motivate people to learn? How can you motivate people to want to lose weight? How can you motivate people to not to take their diabetes type 2 into a type 1? Increase their activity level, participate in a health fair, participate in annual screenings. Okay? So we need to be thinking resiliency in order to help out our clients, and how do we motivate them? Okay?
Would it be
So
A?
go ahead.
I said, would it be A?
Okay. Which statement reflects the term resiliency? What does resiliency mean?
Is that something like not wanting
go-
to do, say, like take your insulin? Would that be resiliency?
Isn't it bouncing back from a difficult situation or something?
Resiliency is the will to keep going forward.
Yeah.
Keep going,
You are
okay.
resilient.
So
You
would
just,
it be D?
irregardless of how many times you've been knocked down, you're going to get up again and you're going to keep going.
Oh, okay.
That's resilience.
That's what I meant. You bounce back.
Yeah, you bounce back. Okay, so let's say you have a vulnerable population. Let's say you have a homeless client or a homeless family. Okay, let's say you have a homeless family and you have really worked with this family. You've helped them schedule their kids' pediatric visits. Somebody has a chronic illness, one of the parents, you have helped find them the resources, and you were just kind of pumping them up and encouraging them to believe that they can overcome these current stressors. Okay, you're instilling resilience in that family. So let's assume that you're instilling resilience within that particular family. What's going to be an outcome of their increased resiliency?
They're gonna.
Who said A? Who said A at the beginning?
I did,
Sorry,
Alfreda.
you were correct. So will A help? Resiliency reduces the vulnerability to certain risks.
Yeah.
Bingo. Right? Right? B is just the opposite. Having resiliency will decrease the likelihood that you'll get sick. Right? Resiliency has nothing to do, C, with genetic predisposition.
Mm.
So let's assume this was a question on the test. C you can cross out right away.
Right.
And then D is ridiculous. It can't be learned if you don't possess it. Of course it can be learned. That's what you learn.
That's
how to
what
be
you're
resilient.
teaching.
Yeah, that's right. So there's only one correct answer. The increase in resiliency decreases your vulnerability. So I really want you to study resiliency and motivation. Okay. Question 6. Okay. Question 6. One of the things we think about in all nursing is our ADPI, our safety, right? Safety ABCs. So when you see a question like this, what do you think about?
Your ABGs.
ABCs.
Think about safety. You think about your ABCs.
ABCs.
So who are you going to go to first? Not that everybody in this, all 4 of them don't need care.
The 9-year-old.
The 9-year-old.
Why? What is, you guys should know this from med surg. What is, or
He's
peds.
coughing. So
Right.
obviously
What is
there's
that
some type of-
impending? What are these the signs of?
That's a sign of
Asthma
airway
attack.
obstruction.
An
Asthma
asthma
attack,
attack.
something with the airway.
Yeah,
Because it's during physical exercise, so it's
Respiratory distress.
correct.
Period.
Right. So you're thinking ABCs. If they have a cough and they're not able to participate, that's a problem. These are the signs and symptoms of an impending asthma attack. Okay, everybody else will get dealt with, but the question's asking you to prioritize. So when you see a question like that, you got to think safety. ABCs. Okay. Question 7. Which food should the nurse recommend to a child with iron deficiency anemia?
Eggs.
Eggs.
A.
Okay. Last term, I think, or 2 terms ago, they said like egg whites or something. But yes, egg whites more specifically, but we changed this to eggs. Okay. Does everybody understand why are B, C, and D wrong? Think med surge.
Well, eggs
No
have a lot of
iron in them.
protein.
Pardon me?
Is it because of the protein in the eggs?
Exactly. Exactly. Does everybody understand that? Are you having like a flashback from like med surge or flashback from peds about this? I know you've talked about iron deficiency anemia in previous classes, right?
Yeah, because I remember getting it wrong.
There you go. There you go. Okay. What is 8? What is that? What's that called?
Is scabies?
Eczema.
It would
What is it
be
called? Go ahead.
It's just diabetes, right?
It has to do, it's a risk factor for diabetes. What is it?
right.
Can anybody pronounce it?
No.
Forgot.
Yeah. What? I call it NA because I can't pronounce it either. Does everybody know what I'm talking about?
Now I'm gonna have to look it up. I knew it was for diabetes, but I didn't know the word for it.
It's called somebody pronounce it for us all. I know the second word's anthocosis.
Nigrocan.
Nigrocan anthocosis. Okay, what is that? It's a dark discoloration along the neck crease and maybe the armpits. Okay, this is a potential symptom of type 1 diabetes, right? So if you notice that, what are you supposed to do? Think priority. What do you need to do?
Advise parents to obtain a full medical evaluation.
Absolutely. Does everybody agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can't remind the child to use creams on the area. We don't know what it's for.
Right.
Right. We don't know what this is caused by. So why would we be recommending an iron-rich diet? No, this is a classic sign of diabetes. And so we want the parent to get a full medical evaluation, correct?
Right.
Right. Okay. What about the nursing intervention? Which nursing intervention is priority for a child experiencing developmental delay? What's the key word in this question?
Developmental.
Developmental delay. Intervention. Priority.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
So remember, when you get into an exam, if it's only allowing you to pick one answer and they all look correct, what might you have missed?
The keyword.
Correct.
Huh.
So that's key. So go back and read it. And so here
So it would be
it's asking
B.
what the priority is.
Would it be potential lead exposure?
A.
Right.
A is the lead exposure. That's what I picked.
Right. Right. Because what are the 3 potential signs of lead exposure? It was in your reading this week in Canvas. You had 2 Canvas readings. One was school nurse, one was lead exposure.
Developmental delay, growth,
growth and development,
growth and development, and something, and I forgot what the other one was.
What was the third one?
Delays.
Exactly.
What
Okay.
What was it? She was cutting out.
Neurological delays.
Neurological. Yeah. Okay. So because one of our topics this week was lead exposure, right? That was developmental delay. It's maybe a key sign of potential lead exposure. Okay, so you guys are marking in these correct answers as we go, right? So when everybody hits submit, everybody's going to come up with a 10, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's do the last question. The nurse notes the child's BMI is at the 90th percentile. Is that bad or good?
Depending on the age, isn't it?
That is bad.
Why is it bad?
They're overweight.
You want them to be right. You want them to be at about the 50% mark, right? If they're at the 90, that means you should be able to interpret from that little bit of information that the child is overweight. So what are we going to do? Are we going to tell them to give them more snacks throughout the day? Do they have to be referred for a medical evaluation?
No.
That's kind of intrusive to suggest that, right? At this point.
It would be C, wouldn't it?
Yeah. We're trying to help parents understand ways to reduce the risks of obesity. Look at D, recommend 100% fruit juice. Are we going to do that?
No.
Why?
Too much sugar.
Too much sugar. Right. So there's only one even.
Trying to make it worse.
What?
The last one, you're trying to make it worse.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Okay. So that's the quiz. So everybody hit submit on that. I have to get something because I'm not going to risk messing up my Zoom. So hang on 1 second. Everybody pull up their. Did
anybody else get a 9.67?
Yeah, it got 9.67.
Yeah. So did I. I was just like wondering, like, what did I do? I'm like, did I miss one of the?
Yeah, because
boxes
I know
select
for a
all?
fact I was listening correctly.
I know what it is.
10 out of
It
10.
was the
Maybe the
vulnerable
26
one.
Maybe
What?
the 26
It was
year
the
old was the
vulnerable
vulnerable
one.
population.
Yeah.
I know what it
probably.
was. You were not supposed to check the 23-year-old,
Okay.
but you can't go back, so I'll adjust them for you.
It's okay.
Thank you.
All right. So yeah, you guys are right. I forgot that about last term. What I'm trying to pull up is a copy of my HESI. I'm afraid to pull it up. Let's see if I can pull it up here. My HESI next. Okay. So everybody submit. I'll take care of your 9.67. Okay. Everybody pull up their HESI prep assignment. And you can keep it online. It's a Word document. It's not PDF. You should be able to fill it out online. Right?
I didn't try that.
It's in your week 1 announcement.
Mm-hmm.
In your week 1 announcement.
Practice test on ExamSoft.
What?
The one
Say
that's
that.
on ExamSoft.
No. It's under your week 1 announcement. And it's one of your attachments. It's called your HESI prep assignment. If you're going to print out anything besides the syllabus, print this out. Or no, not even print it out. Just save it. Save it in your folder for this class. Okay. Tell me when you're ready. Everybody find it?
I'm sorry, I just came back from the bathroom. What are we doing?
Go into your week 1. Have you saved your HESI prep to your desktop yet?
Okay, yes.
Pull that up.
I can't find it.
Week 1. Week 1 announcement, all the way at the bottom. There were 4 different attachments. The first one was the concept recording. I think the second one was the HESI prep, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Tie-in, did you find it? Who's still looking?
I just found it. Yeah, I found it. Thank you.
All right, so everybody pull that up. So let's figure out what we've covered so far in 2 weeks. Now
I can't find
remember,
mine.
what?
I can't find mine.
Go into your week 1 announcement. Can somebody give Raisha a date that I sent the week 1 announcement so she can target the day of the announcement?
I didn't see a date, and in announcements, it would just say
Got it.
week
Thank
1.
you.
You found it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's see what we've covered. All right. I'm going through page 1. We haven't covered any of that, bioterrorism or disaster yet. Okay. We have covered health promotion and teaching. Okay. Now don't hold me to this. Okay. Because I'm not going to be covering everything of every topic. I'm going to introduce the topics to you. Okay. But through your readings and recordings, you're going to be able to complete these. So health promotion and teaching. Okay. I have given these bullets are questions that I have seen, not questions, topics I have seen on HESI. So I reviewed the last 3 terms of HESI's. I don't know what the questions are, but there were questions asking about infant death rates. Okay. There were questions with regards to lipid screening. So what I need you to do is think ADPI, infant death rates. What would you want to put in there? Maybe SIDS, right? Infant death rates. The topic is preventing health problems, right? So maybe they're talking about SIDS.
How to properly put the baby inside like a crib or something.
What that's up. Yeah. So just talk out loud. What would your nursing process be with infant death rates?
Have your baby sleep with a pacifier. That way they're sucking to get in air all the time.
Yep. I would be addressing that, like Emily just said. What kinds of things can you teach parents to do to lower the risk of SIDS?
Tell parents to place their baby in a crib, always place them on their back, and don't put any blankets or any baby bumpers, stuffed animals in the crib.
Okay.
Maybe burp them first before they lay them down to prevent regurgitating.
So there's a whole bunch of information that you guys are talking about right now that can be put right in that box.
Okay.
What about lipid screening? Why do we screen for lipid? Why do we do lipid screening?
High cholesterol. No, I think that's wrong.
No, I mean, there's two bullets. I mean, there's preventing health problems. The 2 topics under that are infant death rates, which we just addressed with SIDS. What about lipid screening? When and why do we? What?
Does that have something to do with cholesterol for the lipid screening?
Yeah. Why do we do lipid screening?
Excuse me. The PDF that I got don't have that on there. I don't know if I pulled up the wrong.
It's under health promotion and
You gotta
teaching.
scroll down.
I'm on page 2. I skipped over the first page because we haven't covered it yet. I'm in the second section, or third section, I believe. 1, 2, I'm at 3, I'm in the fourth section, health promotion / teaching. So think of your nursing process for lipid screening, right? Is that a primary, secondary, or tertiary?
Would that be primary?
Secondary.
Screening,
Secondary.
because it's screening.
Secondary. Secondary.
Okay, now think of health promotion. The next box, recognizing alterations in health. I mean, I would just give it what's conjunctivitis, what's diabetes, what's eczema with school sports, and what do you do? So what's conjunctivitis?
Pink
And
eye.
how do you
Pink eye.
Better known as pink eye.
Right. And what would you do with a student with conjunctivitis?
They have to stay out of school
Mhm.
for 20 until they have
Till they get
antibiotics.
treated. Right.
24 hours for 24 hours.
I'll also tell like the parent to maybe take them to like their primary care, because you know you can get that from like, is that what you can get from like through allergic reaction? Was it pink eye?
Through what?
That pink eye could be from makeup. It could be from children who have runny nose and then they're cleaning their nose and then they rub their eyes.
Mhm.
It could be
Well, it was something we did for our discussion too, and it wasn't pink eye where we can get it through like an allergic reaction.
You can get pink eye from an allergic reaction.
yeah.
It depends.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it can be a severe allergic reaction to
Go back and look at your reading.
like seasonal allergies.
Yeah, absolutely. Go back and look at your reading. You had a couple of pages from your med-surg book that dealt with conjunctivitis. That's how you answer that question. Same with diabetes, same with eczema. All those 3 topics are in your readings for this week. And if you read it, throw out some, how would we apply the nursing process to these 3 common childhood ailments? But that's where to go find the information if you don't know it off the top of your head. Okay, the next topic we covered, we touched upon today, develop health practices that promote and support wellness. It's all about primary prevention, right? Heart healthy diet, increasing activity, right? We talked about that today. What can we do with regards to the nursing process to promote education or primary education? We talked about family health. We talked about the EcoMath.
I would do like make sure that we're doing like patient teaching as far as like that nutritional part, healthy eating, what to eat, where to find it.
And the next box, we talked about an elder health assessment. Or, well, I mean, what do we do when we do an elder health assessment? What are we assessing? Safety, physical health, emotional health, financial
Everything.
health, everything.
everything when it comes to the elder.
Right. And this section is a little bullet for a family EcoMap. We just talked about what that is. The relationship the family or the individual has with their community. And look how much you're knocking off already. You can go back and fill these out. I just, we're getting close to our time and I don't want to keep you over. It's 4:30, 4:29. On the next page, we talked about, this is in your chapter 11, fundamentals, school age child, adolescence, patient education, disease management. These were some topics that came up on the topics that came up on the HESI. Post-CABG. What do you do? What's a nursing process for post-CABG? For post-arthroplasty? What about NG2 feedings at home? That you're going to have to go back in your book and do some investigations with, or do some further further research. So I guess I would just look at the overall topics like health promotion and teaching, preventing health problems, recognizing alterations in health, developing practices that promote and support wellness, family health, school-age child health, adolescence, disease management, patient education. Okay, I mean, I could just leave all these alone and keep with just the highlighted bullet points, but I've given you additional information on what kinds of topics were asked within those, what kinds of questions were asked, what the topics of the questions were that were in those concepts. Okay, so we got through patient education, we got through community outreach. We haven't done occupational health, so you can't fill that out at the bottom of page 3. We haven't done environmental health yet. Bottom of page 3. Okay, abuse and violence, we haven't done that yet. We haven't done home health, we haven't done infectious disease, but we have done vulnerable populations at the very end. Okay, remember, this is a term form. So this is what we've covered in week 1 and week 2. So that whole vulnerable population section is all in your week 1 material from last week. All right, so we got 2 big sections to knock off. We have section 4 that you can complete, which was health promotion and teaching, right? And then we skip section 5, which is home health, skip 6, which is infectious disease. We haven't got there yet, but last section, section 7. So you can complete sections 4 and section 7. And since we're ending a little bit early, you could stay on or just keep working on this on your own and get these 2 sections filled out. Do you understand what I mean about this is work in progress? You might as well get it filled in as we're covering it, so you're not going back in week 10 going, geez, I remember we covered that weeks ago. Okay. That's my suggestion. So I think we got everything done that we wanted to do. Has this been beneficial, helpful?
Yeah, you said 4 and 7. Which one is 7?
Vulnerable populations. It's the last section. I should
I see it. It's at the very bottom. It's the way mine printed out. That's why.
That's all covered from last week's material.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
I just have a question as far as filling this in. So are we basically just creating our own bullet points under the bullet points that like you have? So like the screen I have pulled up right here is like home health. So it says hospice and palliative care. So we're going to create our own bullet points under that to be like.
You're going to wait until we cover that. We haven't got to that yet.
Okay, so let me go to one that we did. So like the conjunctivitis, I'm going to create my own bullet points under that to say like child must stay home from school until treated by family doctors. So we're just creating our own bullet points.
Yeah. Well, what is your nursing process for approaching each and every one of these?
Okay.
And it doesn't always have to be an issue. Like, for example, yes, conjunctivitis. That's pretty easy to do a nursing process, but how do you do a nursing process for health education? You just have to tackle it from a different thought process.
Okay.
Right? Because you're going to encounter all these kinds of things if you're out there in community nursing.
So we're just going to basically describe how we would do it in the nursing process, like patient education and what they need to do. Okay.
Exactly. This is, don't make it any more complicated. I just want you to understand the topic and give a brief summary of how you would apply the nursing process. I don't need you to list out A, D, P. No, I just need you. How would you attack this from the nursing process?
Okay.
What do they present with? What might be a treatment? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else have any questions?
I
was
do.
really
Are
good.
we supposed to sign in under the
Yeah.
chat?
Yep. Sign in under the chat. Yep. Please. And put your campus in there. Yep. That's it for me. So stay on if you have any questions. You guys know where to find me. Reach out if you need anything. Right. So pull out that study guide that I sent. We now have 2 weeks covered. Okay. So pull out that study guide, highlight, take a highlighter. Yep. I know this section. Yep. 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 Or we haven't covered week 3 yet. Okay. So there'll be a portion of your study guide that we haven't covered yet. But by the end of next week, that whole study guide, or at least the topics, should have been introduced to you. And a lot of these concepts have been introduced to you in previous classes. So I think you're all in good shape. You're coming to class, you're participating. I think this was a good hour and a half, well spent. Really, remember what we're doing. We're taking our knowledge, which most of it we have, and now we're starting to apply it, thinking ahead to scenarios. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You guys have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next week.
You also, thank
Yeah,
you.
you do the same.
Okay.
Next week.
Yep.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Marvel.
Where's Omar? I know Omar said he wanted to talk to me. Let me,
Yeah.
Omar, hang on.
Okay.
Jessica, do you have any questions? Karen, Pamela?
Quick question. When will the schedule be sent out for the exam reviews?
Tonight. I just got the other 2 professors' times. You'll have that tonight. Thank you.
Perfect.
Good question.
Thank you.
Yep. All right.